SpaceX reports go. Vehicle is pitching downrange. Stage 1 propulsion is nominal.
We're now at T plus 35 seconds into the 5th rotational crew mission on board Dragon and Falcon 9.
Coming up in just a few seconds, we'll hear the call out for Stage 1 throttle down.
Stage 1 throttle down.
Falcon 9 engines throttling down to help pass through the period of maximum dynamic pressure.
This period is known as max Q, and once the vehicle... There we just heard that the vehicle is now traveling faster than the speed of sound. Once through max Q, we'll throttle those Merlin engines back up.
Max Q. Stage 1 throttle up.
Stage 1 Bravo.
Copy, 1 Bravo.
That call out for 1 Bravo means we're in the second and final abort mode for the first stage, continuing to get good performance. The crew is already pulling over 2 Gs. And next up is going to be a couple of events in rapid succession. First will be engine chill on the second stage and back engine. And there you heard that call out. And then we'll have MECO, or main engine cutoff, where the 9 engines igniting will cut off in preparation for second stage separation. Then we'll see the single Merlin vacuum engine on the second stage ignite and continue to carry the Crew 5 astronauts to orbit.
Just like we did on first stage, that MVAC chill is intended to help pre-chill the hardware prior to the full flow of that densified liquid oxygen.
Stage 1 throttle down.
At this point in time, those 9 Merlin engines are beginning to throttle down in preparation for MECO, or main engine cutoff.
Standing by for MECO.
And MECO.
Stage 2 Alpha.
And stage separation confirmed. Copy, 2 Alpha.
There we should see that second engine begin to ignite now. And obviously confirmed by the loud cheer behind us here at Mission Control Hawthorne.
And we're also in 2 Alpha for the aborts if needed. Again, second stage is lit and continuing to carry the Crew 5 astronauts into orbit.
We're now getting a view of the first stage after that stage separation. The second stage is still being illuminated by that single Merlin vacuum engine, and that's on the right-hand side of your screen. First stage on the left-hand side of your screen making its way back to Earth. We will be attempting to land it on our drone ship, which today we are using Just Read the Instructions.
Acquisition signal, Bermuda.
And we did hear that acquisition of the ground station in Bermuda. The first stage is continuing to make its way back to Earth, and the second stage is going to continue. Another good call, trajectory nominal.
Dropped and copy.
Confirmation there from Commander Nicole Mann. You can also sort of see the Space Coast there in the background of the first stage on the left-hand side of your screen. It also looks like you can actually see the thrust plume created by the first stage as it's now rotating just out of screen.
Second stage is going to continue firing until a little over 8 minutes into the flight, really doing the heavy lifting now, getting the crew into orbit.
Everything continues to look nominal on both first and second stages. As I mentioned before, the first stage will be making a landing on one of our drone ships, which is currently parked a couple hundred miles off the coast of Florida in the Atlantic Ocean. So we can see now that...
SpaceX, trajectory help.
Good confirmation there that we have good trajectory.
The second stage now traveling over 5,400 miles per hour. Crew is pulling a little more than 1 G right now. That's going to continue to ramp up, peaking peaking just before we get to second stage cutoff here in just a few minutes from now.
First stage will be performing 2 separate burns, a re-entry burn where we reignite 3 of the Merlin the Merlin M1D engines on the first stage. We ignite the center engine into radial engines to help slow it down as it re-enters the Earth's atmosphere. And then the second final burn, and that will be the landing burn on our drone ship.
And the single MVAC engine that you see. The single MVAC engine that you see on the right of your screen is continuing to fire. We did hear another call out. The trajectory is nominal. Crew heading in the direction that they are supposed to be. This single engine can produce over 220,000 pounds of thrust in the vacuum of space. Now over 200 kilometers in altitude. We will start to hit events now in a rapid succession as the first stage continues to make its way back to Earth and the second stage continues its burn. Just a couple minutes left in that burn.
For those of you just joining us, just over 6.5 minutes ago, our 4 Crew 5 astronauts launched from Kennedy Space Center in Florida, and they are now making their way into orbit on the second stage inside Crew Dragon, which we're hearing that the trajectory on that is nominal.
Dragon copy.
They are safe inside Dragon Endurance, whereas the first stage on the left-hand side of your screen is making its way back to Earth. We are coming up to the re-entry burn, which, as I said before, we ignite 3 of the 9 Merlin engines to help slow the booster down as it re-enters the dense part of the Earth's atmosphere. As the entry burn completes, we'll be in the final
Stage 1 entry burn startup.
So there we heard the
Stage 2
call out.
STS is safe.
You can there see it on your screen that that entry burn has been initiated.
And as that entry burn completes, we'll be in the final different abort phases here shortly, which essentially correspond to areas along the very northeastern seaboard of the U.S.
Stage 1 entry burn shut down.
Great news, that entry burn was shut down, and then those last all the way across the Atlantic off the coast of Scotland for those abort zones.
Everything continues to look nominal for both the first and second stages.
And the crew with the second stage still attached is now traveling over 13,000 miles per hour.
We're about 10 seconds away from Seco 1.
Copy, Shannon.
Shannon,
Stage 1 transonic.
that call out for Shannon, Ireland, indicative of our final abort zone. After this, we'll see second stage shut off, and we'll be listening for confirmation of a good orbit, which tells us the crew and Dragon are exactly where they need to be.
There we had confirmation that the
Stage 1
MVAC
landing burn.
has shut down simultaneously. The entry,
SpaceX, normal orbit insertion.
And you heard that call for a good insertion. We will coast for a few minutes.
there we can see the drone ship coming into view as Falcon 9 attempts.
Stage 1 landing light deployed.
See those landing lights have now deployed. And as you can see on your screen, and you can hear by the clapping and cheering behind me, Falcon 9 has landed on our drone ship just through the instructions, parked off the coast of Florida.
And again, that second stage separation will be coming up just a couple of minutes now. We do coast for a few minutes after second engine cutoff to allow any race or motion to dampen out and settle. And looks like we're going to get a view of the second stage as it separates here shortly. We did hear that the crew has been stage.
We are expecting stage separation to occur in just over a minute from now, about 1 minute and 8 seconds. And that's when when the second stage will separate from the Dragon trunk. The Dragon trunk is the part of hardware where we are able to house the cargo that is able to be exposed to the vacuum of space, as well as the solar panels which help power Dragon while it is on orbit. Again, that stage separation is now coming up in about 30 seconds. After stage separation, we will have nose cone deployment. Now that Dragon is in the vacuum of space, we will be able to open the nose cone and expose that forward hatch, which is what is utilized to dock autonomously with the International Space Station.
And that nose cone does stay closed for the flight uphill to help protect all of the guidance, navigation, and control sensors. We are standing by for second stage separation. And there is separation.
Dragon separation confirmed.
Launch director on Dragon. On behalf of the entire launch and recovery team, it was an honor and a pleasure to be a part of this mission with you. And while October 3rd may belong to the Mean Girls, October 5th will forever belong to Crew 5. Godspeed, Endurance. Cheers.
Awesome. Thank you so much to the Falcon team. Woo! That was a smooth ride up here. We got 3 rookies that are pretty happy to be floating in space right now, and one veteran astronaut who's pretty happy to be back as well. Let's see what you got to say, Coachy.
Falcon team, it was a smooth ride, and I see all the 3 happy faces here. It's back in 0G, and I appreciate all the help to give us the smooth ride and training. And thank you so much. ジャックさんの自衛隊の皆さん、非常にスムーズな打ち上げでした。打ち上げご支援していただいた皆さん、応援に駆けつけてくださった皆さん、ありがとうございました。この調子でチームワークを持って頑張ります。Thank you for your support. Anya.
Thank you, Falcon 9 and fellow agencies, Directors, NASA, and JAXA and SpaceX exactly for giving us this opportunity. We're so glad to do it together. And thank you for everybody, for all people who with us. Спасибо большое всем агентствам Роскосмос, НАСА, JAXA и, естественно, SpaceX за предоставленную нам возможность. Мы рады всем экипажам сделать то, что мы сейчас делаем. И большое спасибо всем людям, кто сейчас с нами.
Really nice words there from the Crew 5 crew, as well as...
And Dragon Falcon 9C, thanks for the words. Had a great ride. Have a good mission. We'll see you later.
Wonderful Mean Girls reference there by Launch Director Mark Soltis, and then we just heard from Chief Engineer Dan Alex. Just heard our first Quindar tone, indicating the crew is in
Nominal
space.
dehumidifier activation and service section Draco checkouts. Expected launch signal, New Hampshire.
Dragon copy.
And Kate, it did look like we were getting our first views of that microgravity indicator.
I did see that as well.
And we're getting views now of the crew on orbit, 3 of them for the first time ever. We saw some cheers, some high fives. Looks like they're feeling great.
Hopefully we can see that 0G indicator float back into view and hopefully get a better shot of it. I couldn't quite tell what it was, although it kind of looked like it may may have been an Einstein doll, but that's just kind of what it looked like from the backside.
I think you're right, Kate. It looked like a baby Einstein to me. So the next milestone that we're looking ahead towards is the nose cone opening.
If you've just joined us, we had a successful liftoff exactly 16 minutes ago of the Crew 5 mission. They had an on-time liftoff from Kennedy Space Center at noon Eastern Time. They had a smooth ride up to orbit. The first stage landed successfully on our drone ship. Just read the instructions, and everything has been looking good so far. We are hoping to get another view on board Dragon once we're able to get that camera back. But so far, everything leading up to this point in time, we got a shot there of the MVAC engine, which is no longer firing. It is coasting with that attached to the second stage, which has been separated from Dragon. So everything was super smooth this morning, starting all the way back. I think we got here around T-4 hours, and super smooth countdown. Beautiful day from Kennedy Space Center. It looked like a gorgeous view from where Daryl and Bob were sitting. But yeah, we are standing by for the nose cone opening. Now that the Dragon spacecraft is in space, we are able to open up that nose cone and expose the forward hatch, which is what is utilized to autonomously dock with the International Space Station, but of course to protect that hardware as well as protect the guidance and navigation control hardware. We keep that nose cone closed during launch preparations and during the ascent portion. So as you can saw there momentarily, Dragon is in space, and the Crew 5 astronauts, all 4 of them are floating, or they will be able to float soon. We're hoping to get another view of that zero-G indicator once we're able to bring onboard cabin views back to you of the Crew 5 crew. We always like to see what the zero-G gravity indicator is. As you saw earlier in the webcast, Bob actually brought the zero-G indicator that he and Doug used on the Demo 2 mission, a lovely sequin dinosaur, which I also have one at my desk. Bob obviously has the one that went to space. Mine is a replica, but we love seeing these zero-G indicators. It's a really nice way to connect those of us on ground with the folks up in space. So as I said before, we are anticipating nose cone deployment shortly. Just need to do a quick check-in, and there we can see now the nose cone, the hooks have been released, and we see that nose cone moving with a pretty up-close shot.
We're continuing to see that nose cone open, and
Acquisition of signal, fine.
as we've mentioned, this does uncover a number of critical systems for the flight up to the space station that will be required for docking. There are 6 hooks that hold the nose cone in place during the launch and ascent portions. Those have begun to retract, and the nose cone is beginning to swing open. The nose cone is about 2/3 of the way open at this time, so we do expect it to be fully open here shortly.
Shortly after nose cone deployment, the crew will be able to get their visors open, and they'll be given the okay to get out of their suits, and that will allow them to settle in for their ride to the International Space Station.
It is about a 29-hour journey for the crew from launch to docking to the space station, but as you said, they'll be able to get out of their suits, get comfortable, get some rest, and just enjoy being in the microgravity environment of space. Again, we have 3 first-time flyers and 1 veteran on today's flight, but I'm sure it was an exciting moment. No matter how many times you've been to space, I can't imagine that it ever gets old.
I would probably agree with that. I would also imagine that 3 first-time spacegoers will have a brief period of acclimation to gravity. I know I certainly would, and I also recognize that my period probably wouldn't be very brief in order to get acclimated to that lack of gravity. But yeah, this is something that the veteran astronauts on board station are, always happy to help really introduce the new spacegoers to the new environment.
Absolutely, and we did also hear that there was good service section Draco checkouts that took place. We are standing by for that nose cone to be fully deployed, but it should be coming here momentarily.
Dragon, we see a nominal nose cone opening, TCS and forward bulkhead Draco checkouts.
Dragon copy.
Next burn is the upcoming phase burn per your displays.
We see the phase burn in 28 minutes.
Good readback.
So you heard it there, the nose cone has fully been opened successfully. We had some good checkouts on the Draco thrusters, on the service section Draco thrusters rather, and we also had nominal forward bulkhead checkouts.
That's right, and the astronauts should be getting the okay to doff or remove their suits in about 6 or 7 minutes. I would imagine that, as Sandra mentioned before, we do have 3 space newbies on board today. I would imagine that they would be pretty excited to get out of their seats. They've been in these seats for a while. The crew ingressed hours ago, and I would imagine that the 3 folks and even the veteran, everybody would be excited to get out and be able to float around a little bit for the first time on this Crew 5 mission.
Yes, absolutely. And you do see the crew working through some procedures there on the touch pads that they do have in front of them. They'll continue to have those available for them throughout their flight uphill. Again, this is going to be about a 29-hour launch to docking for Crew 5.
So that 0G indicator may have floated out of view, perhaps up above the crew displays. We can see that the visors are up.
Dragon, SpaceX, environments are looking good for suit doffing. For today, we can leave the camera configured for a little while longer, but at this time, you are go for 4.012 and 4.300. As a reminder, please stow the suits with the visors closed. No copy.
Okay, Dragon copies. We are go for 4.012 and 4.300. We're going to keep the cameras configured, and when we stow the suits, we'll do it with the visors.
Good readback. At this time, you're also go to tell the world a little bit about that stowaway we saw shortly after second engine cutoff.
So we're standing by for a few words from the crew about that 0G indicator. And there it is.
SpaceX is launch. Dragon, I'm back in the ground. We missed the last part of your trip.
And no worries repeating my last one there. I was going to have you all talk a little bit about your 0G indicator, but we can hold that up for the next ground station pass here for Dubai. At this time, what I'll do is I'll take the cameras external for suit doffing, and then you let me know when they're allowed to come back on board.
Okay, tracking copy. So we'll let you know when you come back on with the cameras. And we're excited to talk about our stowaway here.
Okay, tracking copies and work.
And it does sound like we are in a brief expected loss of signal with the crew. This does happen from time to time when we're in between our satellites, but we will have views and communication back with them here shortly, and we're looking forward to hearing their words on their stowaway and what that special meaning is for the crew. So with Crew 5 now successfully on orbit, let's head over to our counterparts at Kennedy Space Center in Florida. Daryl, it was spectacular to watch this launch from here in Hawthorne, but tell me, what was it like to see it on the ground?
It was amazing. First of all, we got an idyllic day right here on the Space Coast. I mean, the temperatures are like, mid 70s. There's a cool breeze. Phenomenal launch. Bob, I want to get your thoughts. You've flown, you've watched. This was pretty perfect.
No, this was just outstanding. It was picturesque, with the blue sky, the blue background, a beautiful day here in Florida. The only thing I wish was that I was there with them, because that is the one place that is better to watch a launch from than right here at the Kennedy Space Center is on board the rocket ship.
I got to believe that. And though we weren't on board, we did get to watch the views as we were going up and saw them land the booster, which, by the way, that booster also going to be SpaceX's and NASA's Crew 6 booster. So more the reuse, NASA taking advantage of that as well.
Absolutely. Every chance that we get to reuse a capsule or reuse a booster kind of drives down costs and increases the opportunity for more folks to fly in space.
Now I'm headed out to take a swim, right? I mean, this is just perfect out here. Bob, thank you for your thoughts. And now we're going to move on. We've got an interview here with Robin Gatens, the director of the International Space Station, who also joins us here. And you got to experience the launch from right here outside the press site. And I want to ask you, how did you enjoy it?
Well, it's always exciting to see launch to the International Space Station. I've seen many, but especially to see a new international crew headed to the International Space Station was very exciting. And of course, you nailed it. Beautiful day. Really glad we got this one off today.
Absolutely, and they'll make that 29-hour transit to the space station. You're the director of the International Space Station, so I want to ask you, I heard there's a book coming out there have been books before about the International Space Station, but a new one's coming out. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, it's called Our Benefits to Humanity. It is a publication we have put out before, and we actually released it in July, so it's out. It's both in print format as well as online, so people can just search on Benefits for Humanity, International Space Station, and find that book. And it highlights all of the wonderful research that's going on the space station. This crew will be doing over 200 experiments during their time on the International Space Station, ranging from medical kinds of research that will help treat diseases and produce new drugs here on Earth, regenerative medicine. One day we might even print organs for transplant on Earth. We have Earth science going on space station, a number of climate instruments to help us understand Earth's climate. Really exciting results. This is truly what we call the decade of results on the International Space Station, where we're building on past lessons and capabilities to just compound the results that we're able to get out of the space station.
And 235 investigations, 76 new ones, and you mentioned the decade. 2 decades, more than 2 decades, the International Space Station has been operating. You mentioned some of the science that they're going to be doing. Now I'm wondering if you have a favorite that you kind of identified. Like, I can't wait to find out the results of that.
Well, I've been tracking a lot of them. I'm really excited about some of the medical things. We're flying again a payload by a company called Lambda Vision, and they're producing retinal implants that could be used to help patients with ocular degeneration. So that's really exciting. I'm excited about what we're learning, with respect to the climate. We got brand new climate instruments up on board. But we've got companies learning how to make better products through their research on through the ISS National Lab and their work on the space station. So I'm also excited about plant research going on Space Station. I think that's not only important for future exploration missions, but also to help us grow plants in harsh environments, small spaces here on Earth.
And all.
Kennedy Space Center, for me to see the next generation of launch vehicles launching to the space station was thrilling.
And also the next.
And Koichi Wakata, who I flew with in 2000 to the space station. So I'm inspired by both the young and the experienced.
And speak to me about that, like you said, you've flown on the space shuttle 3 times. Talk to me about that ascent, how it must feel as they're going up through the atmosphere.
It's absolutely a remarkable experience. And I found myself thinking as I was looking at the schedule for this rocket, how physics drives so much of what we do. So it's very similar in the timing of everything. But the space shuttle was a little bit of a wild ride, I have to say. It had a lot of vibration, particularly the first 2 minutes. But you know, it's a very different experience when you're here on the ground. It always brings tears to my eyes. I pray for the crew. When you're inside the vehicle, you're having a blast.
So I'm glad to hear that they were having a blast. Talk to me about why these commercial crew missions are so important.
Well, they're really important to us for a lot of different reasons. The whole value that NASA brings to the American people and in fact to humanity is around science, a strong science and technology posture for the country, and inspiration. And we see that all wrapped up in commercial crew because we see the ability to do more science on orbit because we can carry more crew members. We see the advancements that have been made through NASA investments in commercial crew and commercial cargo that are lifting our entire space industry. And of course, there's nothing better than seeing an astronaut fly to space for inspiration.
Sure. And what's next for NASA? You know, right behind us, we have the vehicle assembly building. Inside is NASA's Artemis 1 rocket. Are you excited for that?
Oh, I'm very excited. I'll tell you, it's a big deal when a new rocket flies for the first time. And we have learned a lot. We have a lot to learn, just like I was a test pilot. So when we flew airplanes, we never actually launched the first try. Usually we just taxied down the runway. So we've taken her out to the runway a couple of times now, and we've learned a lot. And I cannot wait to see the most powerful rocket in the world launch going to the moon.
Yeah, we're doing a lot of great stuff here, and we're so happy to bring viewers on the ride with us, right?
You bet. That's the whole idea. NASA shares and inspires.
Perfect. Sam, thank you so much. I appreciate you being here. Guys, we're going to send it back to you for the last time today.
Thank you very much, Megan. Great job out there. Appreciate it. And Nicole, Josh, and Koichi and Anna are now on course to arrive at the International Space Station around 4:57 p.m. Eastern Time tomorrow. And of course, NASA TV will stay on the air for continuous live coverage along Crew 5's entire ride to station. Meanwhile, SpaceX's YouTube channel will join live coverage starting roughly 2 hours prior to docking. And though our coverage here at Kennedy is coming to a close, we will turn it over to the team in Houston to take us through the next phases of the Crew 5 mission all the way through the arrival at the International Space Station. For those of you watching online on NASA's YouTube, make sure you take a look at the description below. You'll see the video link there, and you'll find that for Crew 5 Coast Phase. Live coverage will continue at that link shortly. You can see it at the bottom of your screen. Pull that up for you. If you're watching on NASA TV, you won't notice a thing, and coverage will continue. So a post-launch news conference is scheduled for 1:30 p.m. Eastern Time on NASA TV. And you can find mission updates on Twitter at NASA, at SpaceX, and on the web at nasa.gov, including timing on any potential live tours of Dragon Endurance during the trip to station. Now, before we sign off from Kennedy, I want to thank my partner and co-host, Bob Behnken, for being on the launch broadcast, sharing your incredible insight and experiences. Bob, I really enjoyed listening to you today. Thank you so much. To you and to Megan, your wife, who helped us with Crew 4. We look forward to hearing more from your family, as well as maybe seeing Theo on a future launch broadcast.
Well, thank you, Daryl. I very much appreciate that. And of course, thank you to my wife and my son and our dog Shadow for joining us for a short period of time during today's broadcast. And again, I just want to echo Deputy Administrator Pam Morroy's words. It's been an exciting year. The Crew 5 folks are just getting started on their excitement for the year, if you will, on their way to the space station right now. But we've got an Artemis 1 rocket over there, the SLS in the vehicle assembly building. Looking forward to seeing that back out on the pad and getting her launched later this year.
Coming to a launch pad soon, mid-November, we all hope, and we're looking forward to that as well immensely. Huge thanks to all of our guests for joining us today, and thank you to all of you for watching. Here now are the highlights from the journey we took today, and just a reminder from here at the Kennedy Space Center to keep looking up. They're getting suited up inside that historic suit-up room, everything going smoothly. And there they are, the astronauts of Crew 5 taking their first step down.
Новый подшипник установлен. Продолжаю сборку. Принято, спасибо. Приятно слышать, что работает механизм хорошо. Но пока не работает. Ну, я имею в виду элемент конструкции. Слышка.